Okay. So welcome back, everybody. Today is class number 22. And up until now, we've been talking about Chet Egel and all the parallels between Chet Egel and Har Sinai, as well as creation. Remember, the Mishkan is a reflection of creation and revelation, and supporting Ramban's opinion that this Mishkan has nothing to do with the sin of the golden calf. And today I want to begin to understand Chazal's approach, or that Rashi supports, that there's a very deep connection between the Chet Egel and the Mishkan, because there's so many parallels that it would be simply an amazing coincidence that it's all by chance. Now, I'm going to sort of spill the beans before I even start. Rashi never says, the only thing that Rashi says is that Parsha Truma Tetzaveh, which means the commandment to build the Mishkan that's recorded in Truma Tetzaveh, was given to Moshe on the second 40 days. He never says that the reason for the Mishkan is because of Chet Egel. That's going to be key. Now, because Rashi says that the Mishkan was given after Chet Egel, everyone assumes, or most people assume, that the reason for the Mishkan is because of Chet Egel. But we're going to show that the way the commandment for the Mishkan is given for sure relates to Chet Egel. But that doesn't mean there would not have been a Mikdash had not been for Chet Egel. And that's how I'm going to make what I want to try and show you over the next week or two is why Rashi's approach makes perfect sense, right? But Rashi isn't saying that had it not been for Chet Egel, we would not need a Mikdash. Rather, had it not been for Chet Egel, the Mishkan that we have, the portable Mishkan, or the portable Mikdash, might have appeared differently, or there might not have been a need for a portable one, but for sure there would have been a permanent one. And then we'll try to see how both Rashi's approach and Ramban's approach are both supported and how they can both live together. Now, what I want to begin with today is simply I want to go to the end of this year with something obvious. From what you remember, Chet Egel, they make a symbol. They make some metal object made out of gold. They build an altar in front of it, and they bring sacrifices in front of a symbol of a god. Correct? Now, is anything like that in the Mishkan?
Yes.
In the Mishkan, we have a symbol made out of gold.
Well, the
Yes.
Kruvim.
In front of it.
We had the Kruvim.
Mizbach Ketoret.
No, so we have a lot of things made out of gold in the Mishkan, in the Mikdash. We have an altar in front of the whole tent of meeting, and we bring Olot and Shlamim, and we're going to find that there's so many similarities between not only Har Sinai and the Mishkan, but also Chet Egel and the Mishkan. There's got to be some deeper connection. We have to figure out what's going on. So the goal of today's share is to understand what's the reason for it. Okay? Basically, the way we're going to get around it is to show you that the people the so-called sinners of Chet Egel, are basing their sin on Har Sinai as well. Not only the Mishkan based on Har Sinai, Chet Egel is based on Har Sinai, and that's what I have to show you. But it's a different understanding. What we're going to get to is that the core problem is understanding your relationship with God and what it's all about, and what your symbol of God symbolizes. Now,
were the Kruvim in the Mishkan also, or just in the base of Mikdash?
the Kruvim in the Mishkan are on top of the Aron and part of the Aron on the Kaporet.
Oh, they were in the
Beit Mikdash. There's Kruvim that stand alone on their own 2 feet.
Okay.
And they're separate and they're more permanent. That's going to be in chapters 6 and 7 in Sefer Menachem Aleph. Okay, so let's get started, and I'll share my screen. And I hope I got this right today. Here we are. Okay, perfect. Okay, so today is class 22, and the golden calf of the Mishkan, an obvious parallel or an amazing coincidence. You can tell from my title where we're going to go. Okay, so we dedicate the first 2 classes of the thematic connection between Har Sinai and the Mishkan, supporting Ramban's approach. Today we begin to study the story of the golden calf to understand Rashi's approach, who says that the specific commandment to build the Mishkan in Truma Tetzaveh was given after the sin of Chet Egel. And to understand the connection, we have to figure out what did they do wrong with Chet Egel. Now, before we go any farther, whenever anyone studies Chet Egel, it's almost impossible to understand why. If it's idol worship, IDOL, and the people really believe that this golden calf that they made took them out of Egypt, why is God so angry? They're just foolish. It makes no sense that the people who just saw Har Sinai and came out of Egypt and saw the plagues to really think that golden calf took him out of Egypt. It just doesn't make sense at all. On the other hand, if this is a symbol of God, if they mean well, and their intentions are good, and they're simply making a symbol of God and considering it's Aaron's idea, it seems to be a good idea, then why is God so angry? In other words, if it's really idol worship, it doesn't make sense that they would turn to idol worship so quickly. And for what reason? If it's not idol worship, why is God so angry he wants to destroy the nation? So either way you treat it, if it's idol worship, it doesn't make sense. If it's not idol worship, it doesn't make sense. If it's idol worship, the people's actions make no sense. If it's not idol worship, it's just misguided worship of God, then God's anger doesn't make sense. So we have to make sense. We have to try to make sense and try to find a happy medium. That's our goal. And because all the parsha deal with it, I'm going to go in a bit of a different direction. You'll see if you agree or disagree. So let's begin our sources and let's get to work. Okay. So what I claim the root of Chet Egel is in Parshat Mishpatim, and later we'll see in Sefer Yecheskel. What do you mean in Parshat Mishpatim? Let's just recall the events before we read the psukim. And Am Yisrael stood in Har Sinai, entered a covenant to be God's people forever. It's a Nasa v'Nishma, and they received the laws of Parshat Mishpatim. If I follow Pshat, they received that on that same day, and they made a whole ceremony. They brought Olot and Shlamim. We'll read that ceremony soon. But at the end of the laws of Parshat Mishpatim, there's 3 chapters of laws about how to behave, and the classic laws of Parshat Mishpatim we're all familiar with. That whole section ends with a divine promise to the people that God's going to help them conquer the land. And listen carefully to what God tells them. Again, God is talking to the people through the agency of Moshe. Notice God's talking to Moshe to tell this to the people. So let's listen carefully. Pretend you were there. You just came out of Egypt. You've been traveling the desert for 6-7 weeks. You received the Torah. You just entered the covenant. You heard the 10 Commandments. You heard Parshat Mishpatim. And we know we're supposed to go to the land of Israel. That's why God took us out of Egypt. We're supposed to become a nation in Israel. And it's going to be a big ordeal to conquer it. Pretend you heard this promise from God. Hine onochi sholech malach lefanecha. Onochi is referring to God. God, remember onochi Hashem Elokecha? God's telling the people, I'm going to send a malach. I'm not going to translate malach. A malach, okay? Is he human or not human? We'll decide. We'll play Clue in a minute. To guard you on the way. To bring you to the place that I got ready. What's that place? What place is it that God got ready for us? It's easy. The land of Israel. It's such a beautiful description. God got the land ready for us. Okay. Now there's a warning. Hishamer mipanav. This malach that I'm sending. Again, we have to decide: is this something with wings? Is this like some supernatural being, or is this a human being? Because humans are also called. Anyone sent by God is called a malach. Hishamer mipanav. You better listen to this malach and obey him. Ushma b'kolo. Don't rebel against him. Why? Ki lo yisal pishechem. This malach that I'm sending you, he can't carry away your sin. If your sin, he has to punish you. Why? Because my name is with this malach. Now, this malach that's telling you what to do, he's my messenger, but what he says is what I'm saying, as we'll see in a minute. Kim shema tishma b'kolo. If you obey what he says, and hence do what I'm saying. Whatever this malach is saying in God's name is essence. God's telling you what to do. You didn't want to hear directly from God. So therefore, listen to this malach, because whatever he tells you to do is what I'm telling you to do. Right? Now, if you do obey his commandments, then your enemies will be my enemies, your adversaries will be my adversaries. It means I'll help you conquer the land. But what's the flip side? If you don't listen to me, I won't help you. In other words, what's one of the most important things to understand the rest of Chumash is that God can help us conquer the land of Israel, but God's help is contingent on our keeping the mitzvot and our readiness to obey him. And therefore, if the enemy is formidable and without a miracle we can't conquer the land, the result is if we don't keep the mitzvot, we won't be successful in conquering the land and we'll lose to our enemies. Now here's the big line. Kelech malachi lefanecha. Pay attention to the word lefanecha. My malach is going to lead the way and bring you to where? To the land of the 7 nations, like we talked about in Brit Ben Abtarim. And when you go, don't bow down to other gods. Instead, serve your God, and then he'll bless you, etc. Basically, this is good old midat hadin. Follow me. I'll help you. Don't follow me. You're in big trouble. Okay. Then I'm going to send my fear in front of you, Ashat lefanecha again, and I'm going to make these all the people that are in your way run away from you. And what do you call it? And all your enemies are going to turn their backs to you and run away, and conquest of the land will be easy. And I'll set your borders from the river to the sea. I'm just joking, sort of. Actually, from Yam Suf, that's from the Red Sea to the Mediterranean, and from the desert, probably the sun, all the way to the river. Is that the Jordan River, or the Nar Prat, or is it the Euphrates River? That's a machloket. But basically, you have from here from the sea to the river, the opposite way. Okay. And then I'm going to give you. Basically, there's a big promise. God will help you conquer the land, and when you conquer the land, don't make with them covenants, etc. Now, pretend you were Am Yisrael. Who do you think? Who's the candidate? Who do the people think this malach is going to be?
Moshe.
It's got to be, right? Because Moshe has been talking on behalf of God. He did all the miracles till now. Now, is there something that Moshe has that facilitates all the miracles, all the military miracles we've had?
He's got his
Let's take the 10 plagues. If they saw any of the plagues, what did they see?
Staff.
Moshe lifted up his hand with his mateh.
With the mateh.
Yeah. If you've written davening, what did the people see with Kriyat Yam Suf? What does Moshe do? Moshe lifts up his hand with his mateh and points to sea and it splits, and then does the same thing when they get through and it covers the Egyptians. Now, was Moshe's mateh involved in any other military victory till now? Put it this way: have the Jews ever fought their own battle till now?
Amalek.
Amalek. And what helped them defeat Amalek?
His hands.
That was the wrong answer.
The mateh.
Yeah. What's in Moshe's hand?
The mateh.
Mateh is his hand. And what's that mateh called? The powerful mateh. Or we'll see in a minute. We'll call it mateh Elohim. We're going to read that now. What I want to show you is that not only did they want Moshe, no, it's not only they assume that Moshe is the malach, it's Moshe and his magic staff. Okay? It's mateh Elohim. Because bottom line, there hasn't been a miracle without the mateh Elohim. Now, if I don't have Moshe, got it? I need something to replace, not just Moshe, I need a replacement for the mateh Elohim, whatever it might be. Okay, so with that in mind, let's take a look at everything that happened till then. Let's share my screen again and take a look. Okay, so we're going to go, before we get to, I'll go back to actually Big Shemot Amalek in a minute, because I just mentioned him. Here, we'll get back to this in a minute. I'm just jumping to the end with Amalek. Here. Okay, Vayavo Amalek, Vaylechem Yisrael b'Refidim. Amalek came and fought Israel in Refidim. Moshe tells Yeshua, get some men, some fighters, and go fight Amalek. Tomorrow I'm going to be at the top of the mountain. Umateh Elohim bi'adi. Now, that's not God's staff. That's a powerful staff. Remember, Elohim can mean power, strong, or the mateh that represents God. Remember, ever since the burning bush, ever since he left Midian, God tells Moshe to take this mateh, which you do all the otot and all the miracles. The mateh Elohim has done everything. Now, Yeshua does everything, etc. And when Moshe lifts up his hands, we won. Now, what's in Moshe's hand? The mateh. Now, why does Moshe need two people to help hold his hands up? Because the mateh Elohim is in his hands.
No.
If Moshe wasn't holding the mateh Elohim, he wouldn't need Aaron and Hor to hold his hands up. And therefore, what are the people looking at? Not just Moshe's hand, but the mateh Elohim in Moshe's hand. And that's a famous thing. And that's a symbol that God's fighting for you. Without even Chumash, if you've seen any good old war movie, Civil War, even World War II, it's always the flag bearer, right, who rallies the troops. And the patriot is one of the big scenes. Someone, and being able to wave that flag, that's like the most important job. And people don't mind dying just to have that schus, the thing to wave the flag and rally the troops. So every army, the Roman legions, fight, with the symbol of the legion. Every army fights with the symbol of what they're fighting for. Every nation has their, what do you call it? Their Magen David, their flag. Remember? Anyone nationalistic's got their national flag. It applies even to sports teams, have the same thing. You need a symbol of your team, of what you're representing, what you're doing. That's human nature. Why? Ask an anthropologist. Now, but that's human nature. And therefore, We're fighting, but to show that we're fighting God's battle, we need that symbol. And therefore, we're fighting because we're fighting God's war against Amalek. Therefore, if we're fighting the Shem Shamayim, then God will help us. Now let's go back and try to remember what happened at Har Sinai, because this is the last thing the people did before Moshe went up the mountain. What happened? Let's go back to source 2 now, in Roman numeral 2. Okay? Moshe comes down with the laws of Parsha Mishpatim that we just read, the laws and that promise, tells the people all the Mishpatim, and the people agree. Moshe writes everything down. Okay? He gets up in the morning. What does he do? He builds an altar, and a symbol of the 12 tribes of Israel, 12 matzebot, 12 pillars, representing the 12 tribes of Israel. Right? He sends Narei B'nai Yisrael, whoever they are, like prototype, some types of Kohanim, but they're not Kohanim yet. And what korbanot do we bring? Olot and Shlamim. Olot and Shlamim, and the best animal, Parim. Moshe takes half the blood and puts them into big containers, half the blood puts on the altar. He reads the Sefer Abrit out loud, and the people answer Nasa v'Nishma, good old 24/7. And then Moshe takes the blood, sprinkles on the people. This is the Dam of the Brit. Moshe, Aaron, Nadav, and Avihu, and 70 elders, this leadership group, including member Moshe, including Aaron and the sons, and the elders, go up to Har Sinai. And what do they see? They see some vision of God. Now, if they go closer than the others, there's some bright vision of God, but they see the lowest level of God, the bottom of his feet, whatever that means. But the lowest level of God was the brightest thing anyone could see. Right? Like something bright and shining, and that was the lowest level of God. And despite their close encounter with God, God didn't punish them, whether that was good or bad, big argument among the commentaries. They had this vision of God, or this seeing of God, whatever the chisayon is here, of God, and they eat and they drink, the korbanot, everything's fine. And that's a big celebration in Har Sinai. The whole nation enters a covenant. Its leadership group accepts the covenant, goes closer to God, and there's a big kiddush, and everyone's happy. Now, we should go right to Israel now. God just promised the Malach, but we need some more laws about how to become a nation. We need the laws that we call Sefer Dvarim, etc. So God tells Moshe, Aleg, come up the mountain, and you'll be there for a while. And I'm going to give you the Luchot Even, the Torah and the Mitzvah, which I'm writing for you to instruct them. In other words, Moshe's going up to get more laws. And even though they're expecting to go to Israel, and God promised the Malach to lead them, now they have to wait for Moshe to come down, especially if Moshe is the Malach. Moshe goes up with Yeshua to the mountain, and here's the key. Elis Kenim Amar, right? Who are the elders? The elders are the people who went up the mountain with him, who had this vision of God. They told the elders, stay here until we come back. In other words, me, Yeshua, and I, we're going up. Don't go anywhere. We'll be back soon. Well, not soon, until we come back. Any questions? Aaron and Hur are in charge. Any questions come up? They're in charge. Anything come up? Now, the assumption is he's coming back. But the people were never told how long he's going up for. Moshe doesn't tell that to the people. God doesn't tell Moshe how long he's going for. Chumash tells the reader. Moshe goes up, covered the cloud, etc. The people see Moshe going to Kvod Hashem on the mountain. It's like Esha, it's like it's burning fire on the mountain. That's what the people see. Moshe goes into the cloud of smoke, and he's there, and the Chumash tells us he's there for 40 days and 40 nights. Now, this narrative continues. This narrative continues in chapter 32 with the story of Chet Egel, which we'll see in a minute. In between is, I call the Har Sinai camera takes over from chapters 25 to 31, laws of the Mishkan, but the camp camera continues in chapter 32. Got it. Now, we'll take this slowly. Vayara'am ki boshesh Moshe l'redet min hahar. Someone tell me what the people saw. What does Vayar mean here?
They understood.
Yeah, because they didn't see anything. That was they reached conclusion. That's going to be a key word. Vayar will be a key word. Vayar means to reach an understanding. If you see what I mean, you understood my pun. We say the same thing in English. The people reach an understanding that Moshe is delayed in coming down. And again, how long should they wait? A week for sure they can wait. 2 weeks, they'll start, getting a little nervous. 3 weeks, Aaron says, wait another. They're waiting. Now, they're not going to wait for 500 years. They're not going to wait even a year, are they? Sometime between a week and a year, they're going to blow the whistle and reach what conclusion? He's not coming back. What's the proof he's not coming back?
He's dead.
He didn't come back yesterday. How long can they wait for? They can't wait forever. Now, we'll take a break here for a minute. Stop here for a second. Think, what options do the people have? Assuming, let's take the assumption the Moshe is not coming back. Let's say that's consensus, which is a logical conclusion to reach. Again, the proof is he hasn't come back. Aaron doesn't know. Aaron didn't say, wait another week or so. Maybe he did, but he hasn't come back. Assuming the people reach the conclusion Moshe is not coming back, as a nation, what are the options? As a nation,
Go back to
Go
Egypt.
back.
and go back to Egypt. Been there, done that. Okay.
They could go
To choose somebody else.
They
To
can
choose
No.
somebody else.
For sure, they'll need to choose somebody else. But whoever the leader is, I'm saying we'll get to the leader later on. But what are their options as a nation?
They could go to Eretz Israel by
They
themselves.
can go to Israel. They go back to Egypt, or they can stay in the desert. Staying in the desert, that's a bummer. You follow? We've been doing that. There's how long are you going to stay for? And we've been doing that already for a couple of weeks. So that's no longer an option. I can go back to Egypt and have to give the money back to slavery. We'll get our water balance back, okay? But there's a downside of that and a plus side. What's the downside of going to Israel?
They're free.
We have to fight a war. And if they didn't receive the Torah yet, learning Torah won't save them more yet, so they'll have to fight. Okay, if you're following the news, so now they need to fight, but they know the enemy is formidable, and what do they need to help them fight? They need the malach. Asher, remember, Asher God said, they need a malach to lead the way. So the people want to go and conquer Israel, but they need military help. They need some F-16s. They need maybe B-2s. They need heavy equipment help, and they need it. They need the best because without that they won't survive. Now, who should they go to? Aaron, right? Aaron's been their leader all along. Moshe told them, go to Aaron if you have a question. Why, of course, not in the story. That's a midrash, but we'll leave that alone for now. But it makes sense to go to Aaron, and therefore, what will they want? Okay? Assuming they all believe in God, assuming Moshe is not going with them, they need a replacement for Moshe. But not only Moshe, they need a replacement for the Matel. They need something powerful, okay, that will lead the way. Remember? Now, with that in mind, let's read the next psukim. Let's go. Okay. Okay. Vayar Moshe ki Moshe okay. Vayikahel am Aharon. Remember the word Vayikahel? That's a giveaway. The Parsha Vayakel. The people gather on Aaron. Now, usually Vayakel could be good, but sometimes it can be bad. But it's everyone gathering together and up against somebody, or either following or going against somebody. V'emru elav. Kum aseh lanu Elohim asher yichul lefanenu. I'm making a big deal about asher yichul lefanenu because that matches what God promised. Remember? Hinei anochi sholech malach lefanecha. Remember? Ki yelech malachi lefanecha. And therefore, give us a power that will lead the way. Why? To help us conquer the land. Now, later, if I want to jump to the end of the story, we build the Mishkan, we have the Aron. What's going to lead us on our journey to conquer the land of Israel?
The Aron.
The Aron, made out of gold, collected from the people. Remember, Vayibin so Aron, Chumash b'yafut so'evecha? By the time the story's over, we're going to have a kosher egel. It's called the Aron. The people are going to have gold. Whatever the people wanted this egel to be, that becomes the Aron. Let me just jump to the bottom of the source sheet in case you forgot the psukim. Vayibin so Aron v'emer Moshe. The Aron is made out of gold, remember? Kuma Hashem. Who's Hashem? The Aron. Okay. V'yafut zo'evecha v'nisim v'sam v'yipanecha. Go defeat your enemies. Let them go. Remember? V'yafti toivecha v'tzarti tzorecha. Okay. Uvenucha yamar, when the Aron rests, we say Shuva Hashem. Hashem is referring to the Aron. No, the Aron is leading them in battle. When they cross the Jordan River, right? It helps us split the river. Conquering Yericho, the Aron leads the way. So, bottom line, when the story's over, what the people are asking for is exactly what the Mishkan ends up becoming, a symbol of God that's going to lead them in battle and win their wars. Now, who misunderstood this? Remember Bnei Eli, when they went to war against the Plishtim and they thought the Aron could help them? No. When you go to war, you need a symbol of the God you're fighting for. The question is going to be, what does that symbol mean to you? Okay, what's it a symbol of? Is it a symbol of dedication to be God's people? or is it a symbol of power? Not it? You see where we're going in a minute? In other words, you need a symbol to lead. The question is, what's your relationship with God, consumer or employee again? Right? Is this a symbol of God that reminds us, oh, we got this strong army and we this powerful God, but our goal is to take over to be the victor and be the new bully of the Middle East, or is our job to be a nation representing God? Now, and the symbol of God, what your symbol is, represents what you're talking about. There's then people have tattoos, especially army people like having tattoos or patches and things like that. Or what's your symbol of your faith or what you're fighting for? Okay, so now let's go back to the Chet story. Okay, now, so why? Why do we need an Elohim which will lead the way? Because who is supposed to be this Elohim leading us? We're supposed to remember Moshe Ish Elohim. Kizem Moshe Ha'ish. Now he's an Ish because he's mortal. Okay, who took us out of Egypt? We don't know what happened to him, and I hit the wrong thing. Sorry about that. Okay, we don't know what happened to Moshe. Got it? That was had Moshe come down. They all believe in God. They need a replacement for Moshe, not Moshe the teacher, Moshe the battle leader. Got it? That's what they need. Now, Aaron didn't say no. What's Aaron want to make? That's a good idea. Why wouldn't Aaron want to go to Israel? Why not make a symbol representing God? And let's make a symbol to remember what happened at Har Sinai. So Aaron's got a great idea. What's he do? What's Aaron tell them? Give me your gold. I told you one little last stroke. Aaron tells him, I have a wealthy, what do you call it? An anonymous person. For every earring you bring, he'll give another earring, right? Mm-hmm. And for every chatzi shekel you give, he'll give the other chatzi shekel. He'll match your funds. Okay, but we have 48 hours to to donate your money. Okay, now, so he gives their gold, etc. Okay, and sure enough, this is a Jewish tradition. No matter what the cause is, we raise money. And they bring it to Aaron. Notice whose idea is this? Aaron's idea. Now, Aaron believes in God, and Aaron is not fired. Remember? In fact, he's promoted after all this. We'll see why. But Aaron really means well. He must mean well, and we'll prove it now. What does he do? He takes the gold. Aaron, the Yatzar, is Aaron. The Yatzar to Bacharit, he puts it into the mold. He melts it down and puts it into a mold. Vayaseu, not Vayasuhu, Vayaseu. Aaron makes the egel. A maslicha, something representing a god, or representing God, whatever it's representing, but it's a maslicha. But it's an egel representing something. And when Aaron makes this egel, what do the people say? This is the replacement for Moshe. Why? Because what did they say before? Kizem Moshe asher lanu me'eretz Mitzrayim. We don't know what happened to him. And now, this is your power, right? Israel, who took you out of Egypt. It's a replacement not for Moshe the person, Moshe the power. Got it? Elohim. That's my whole point. I need things. I need God's help. I need some object. I think Shuli's giving here a series on objects. Who's in Shuli? I've seen the title. So I hope she doesn't object to using her analogy. Okay. But I need an object which we're going to focus on, just like we have by fighting Amalek. We don't have the Mateluim, so we need something else instead. Now, Aaron sees what's going on. He wants to make sure that this egel he made is representing the God of Har Sinai. And what does he do? He builds a mizbech in front of it, just like we have in the Mishkan. Remember? Mizbech lifnei Hashem. And what's Aaron say to everybody? Chag Lashem Machar. Remember? At Har Sinai, the next day, by Macharat, they make Olot and Shlamim. Before we go, just go back to what we read in the very beginning. At Har Sinai, remember? Moshe builds a Mizbech Tachat Har. And now Rabbi Yisrael, they Olot and Shlamim on the Mizbech, and we have symbols of God. But the difference is here's Nasa v'Nishma. In other words, this one has an educational content. This one has no educational content. Just the Kiddush. I'll give an analogy in a minute, which you won't like. Now, but what do the people say? So Aaron sees, he builds a Mizbech and says, Chag Lashem Machar. And they get up in the morning, remember, all ready for the big Kiddush. And I would just give a bad example. They bring a Lon Shlamim, but I call it the first Kiddush club. Why? There's nothing wrong if you come to shul and hear laning and hear the rabbi's speech, and then sit to a kiddush and discuss how bad the speech, whatever it is, with all your. But you discuss what when you come to shul only for kiddush, you follow, or just for the schnapps. So when you're coming just for the food with no educational content, but you're going to what do you call it? Yeah, because you're God's people to feel good about yourself and everything. So therefore, they get more. They bring a lot of shlamim. The people achov v'shato, and what's the parallel difference? Vaykum v'litzachek. Everything is parallel except the line, and something goes wild. But the contrasting parallel is making a big deal about litzchok. Tzchok is something wild, frivolous behavior, or whatever it might be. The rabbis, you name it, they did it. Remember? Avodah zarah, shvichut damim, gilu arayot, and they bring tzchok by all of them, by Yishmael and by Rivka and Yitzchak, etc. But it's basically the behavior is bad. Now, I don't know if you've ever seen teenagers, but the second you have party and thing, that's when you what does Chazal say? How do you test a person? Bekaso, bekiso, ubekoso. That's how he drinks, how he parties, how he acts. Now, there's a bigger question. Why is God leaving Moshe on Har Sinai so long for? What's God waiting for? Because Moshe wasn't on his way down. God tells Moshe, Lech red. Moshe's coming down prematurely. God's waiting, in my opinion, God's waiting for something to happen because this is the final test. Are they ready to go to Israel or not? How's God, again, I'm spent my whole life teaching 18-year-olds in gap year programs. So I'll just give you the analogy. When you're in yeshiva, or in SEM, you're in a controlled environment. You may be fine. Remember, take normal high school kids come to Israel. In yeshiva, no, I think they're fine. The second Ben Azmanim, where the second they party somewhere else, they're outside yeshiva, or the second yeshiva is over. Have they changed, or they go back to their high school behavior? If our background, it's a question when we left Egypt, what was our level? So we'll see in Yechezkel in a minute. Our level in Egypt was what Chazal called the 49 levels of Tumah. It's based on what Yechezkel, we'll see in Yechezkel later on. Understandable, we were slave people. Okay? Our culture was more Egyptian than God was trying to turn us over and turn things around, but our core behavior was still very base. And God was hoping in the 6-7 week seminar and all these events coming out of Egypt, we flip what's called flip in, flip out, we turn around. And what does God see? With Moshe gone, how do they behave at the party? And they go wild, we'll see. That's Vaykum Litzachek his thing. And at that point, now, again, God doesn't get angry on the day that Aaron makes the egel. God gets angry after Vaykum Litzachek. Remember, there's an extra day here. If making the egel is the problem, then God should have told Moshe to go down beforehand. But what happens? God says, Lech red ki sheichet amcha. And where's the thing? What happened here? I skipped it. Oh, I'm sorry. I guess it's here. It's got to be here in a second. How did I miss it? I'll get to it in a minute. Let's go. Let's going to review the parallels that we saw before. So the parallels we had, most of the people go to Aaron. Remember Aaron Bechor. Whoever have questions, go to Aaron Bechor if there's a question. And the people say Moshe going to a ball of fire, which makes a good reason why he's not coming back. Remember Har Sinai, they think who can possibly survive the fire? So Moshe, maybe you can, but now maybe Moshe can't either. So it's all logical. Okay. God told him, malach lefanecha, kemach lefanecha, and elim ashirchu lefanenu. And Moshe ish, only he's mortal now. But I need a malach to lead it to destroy the nations. Aaron makes the egel, etc. He makes the mizbeach in front of it like Aaron did. Like basically what we did in chapter 24, we saw is the same thing that the people are doing, but Aaron's intentions are good, and they have those basically that's the here vaychu vayishtu at Har Sinai, here vaychu vayishtu, and vaykum letzachek. Now, I'll just take a quick break to explain why Aaron's making an egel. There's two reasons. There's two classic reasons. This one, this Fono brings, I think, in Chizkuni, but it's classic. No one saw God, but they had a vision of God. Who had a vision of God? The Zkenim. Aaron, Nadav, Avihu, and the Zkenim. What did they see? They saw the bottom of God's feet. Remember, Tachat Raglav was the brightest thing. Now, if I want to make a symbol of Har Sinai, what did people see? They saw Tachat Raglav. Now, later, Yechezkel has a vision of God's chariot. Remember, that's the first chapter of Yechezkel we read this morning. And there's this big thing, and we'll just jump right to it. It's got 4 faces, this chariot, etc., and 4 wings. But the Raglehem Regel Yishara, right? these four what do you call it? Kruvim. There's four whatever they are on the chariot, holding up the chariot, whatever they're doing. Their feet are straight. V'chaf ragleihem, the bottom of their feet are like the foot of a egel. So if the people of Har Sinai were God's feet, and God's feet look in the Cheskel's vision like the bottom of an egel, maybe that's why they make the egel. That's Chizkuni, that's a classic one. I want to follow what I think I learned from Bill Ben-Nun. I'm pretty sure he said it, but it's ingenious. He says when you go to, I'll share a story with you from Richmond, Virginia. Anyone ever been to Richmond like 10, 15 years ago? If you haven't been, in Richmond, Virginia, it was part of the South. It was like the capital of the Confederates, wasn't it? Remember Robert E. Lee and all the big generals? So they still like admire them up until it was Assad a couple years ago. But in every traffic circle, at every like big center, there's a Southern, a Confederate general on a horse. Got it? That was then. All the Confederate generals are being honored, like 6, 7, I forget how many, but there's like numerous Confederate generals, including Robert E. Lee. I forgot the names of the other ones, and they're all riding horses, because that's what generals did in the Civil War. You were rochev al sus. Now, if you go to museums, you'll see often there's all these gods, okay, and especially the male gods and the war gods. They're all riding on a pedestal, because every god has a pedestal. And usually the pedestals are a bull or a cow or something like that. They're sitting on an animal. Usually it's a bull. Now, usually the god is sitting on a pedestal. And the main thing is in the pedestal, the main thing is the god on top. But if I want to make a symbol of a god that can't be seen, then what do I make? I make a pedestal with nothing on it. And therefore, maybe Aaron's idea was, I want to give a symbol of an invisible god. And therefore, what do? I make the pedestal, right? And with nothing on it, to show that our God can't be seen. Now, how do we solve that in the Mishkan? Oh, we need some symbol of God, but we can't see it. So what do? We cover it. And therefore, what do we call it? A Mishkan. Remember the Mishkan or the Eser Yeriot? But the Mishkan Tasa Eser Yeriot, the covering, what makes the Mishkan special is there's a symbol of God, but you can't see it, which is unique, I'm pretty sure, to our Mishkan as opposed to other like temples and stuff like that, where there's always some symbol of God in the middle, but everyone can see it, and the Mizbeach in front of it. We have a symbol of God that's covered. Those are the two explanations. But with either explanation, what Aaron's doing makes sense, and it's a symbol of God or God's power. It's not another God. Now, what's the problem? When the symbol becomes the God, that's the problem. I was bringing one other example. Oh, I'm sorry, my example from Richmond. So that's the idea of a pedestal. So when a couple of years ago, because these people owned slaves and they were pro-slavery, so how can you honor people who fought to support slavery? So they had to cut down they were all cut down. So when I heard that, I asked the question, how about the horses? I understand cutting down the generals, what do the horses do wrong? And they told me they cut down the horses also. And I felt so bad for the horses because nothing, I mean, they just had the horses in this year, then it would have been a symbol of God in the war, but it was too late, and they kept the horses down also. Now, back to, I just brought that example to understand. Again, either way, Aaron means well. It's the people's behavior. My claim is God's waiting to see how they're behaving, and God's angry with their behavior. Now, I want to prove that, and then we go after. I'm sorry, not putting it I can't figure out why it's not on the source sheet. I'll just read Ramban real quick. Ramban supports this idea that it's not idol worship, IDOL. They mean well, okay? There's no idiot who would possibly think, no foolish person could think that the gold from the earrings took them out of Egypt, okay? Right? But they said that there's some koach, there's some power in the shape. The shape has a power. There's koach. See, koach is power. Now, and they just said the ego took us out of Egypt. This represents the God who took the power that took us out of Egypt. Okay? Because they agree, they accept, but they accept Anochi Hashem Elokecha, and God's name who took him out of Egypt. But they say they say this power took us out of Egypt. Okay, and he goes on to the idea of the Yad HaGdolah, that it's God's Yad Golah that dried out the sea, etc. The idea of a symbol, it's a symbol representing God. What I want to claim is the people rally around the symbol because it's a symbol of military power. And what's their goal? Their goal is the military power. In other words, to them, what's God? God is Hashem Yishvachama. But he's not Hashem Tzvot. Remember, if you know, Mizeh Melech Avod, Hashem Yizuz v'Gibor, Hashem Gibor Mechama, and we asked the question again. Remember, we read it this morning in Shir Shayom, in Psalm 24. Then we asked, Mizeh Melech Avod, Hashem Tzvot Melech Avod Selah. God might make himself known in war, but the goal is not God being a God of war. God will help you fight a war if you win that war and set up a nation serving God properly. If your only goal is God helping you win a war, but you're not motivated to be his people, then that won't work. Now, let's open up a Chumash, stop the shir and open up a Chumash. I want to explain, wait, how could it not be on the, let me just double check my source sheet one more time because I can't believe it's not on the source sheet. Yes, Yeshua, we did that. Oh, it is here, my mistake, it's here. Okay, it's on the source sheet. Okay, what happens when Moshe goes down? God tells Moshe saying, Lech red ki shechet amcha. Now, how did you understand ki shechet amcha? What sin is this referring to?
The dancing around.
The making of the ego.
Yeah.
The making
That's how
of,
it's usually understood. Have we ever had that phrase before of hashchata?
yeah, Sodom.
Where?
Sodom.
Even before then? Get my
Noah.
In Gan Eden.
Mabul, before the Mabul.
by the flood, remember?
That's what I
By
said.
Hashem.
Let me open up. Where's my Chumash? What's that? Is this it? Is this a? This should be good. Okay. I hope this is right. No, let me find. I'll just open up a Chumash here. Hope it's gonna work. Open up Bereshit, Torah. What happened to Bereshit? Bereshit, chapter 6. All right. Just real quick. What's hashchata? Okay. Elu todot Noach Tzadik. Okay. Ve'noach Shoshabanim. Okay. Vatishechet haaretz lifnei Elohim. V'timas Hamas. Vayom haaretz lifnei nishchata. Ki yishchutcha basato kol haaretz. That's not idol worship, is it? That's corrupt. That's corruption. That's wild behavior. That's corruption. Therefore, that's bad behavior. That's a behavioral thing. It's not something intellectual, it's something behavioral. Now, as long as you have Sefer Bereshit open, later on, there's what's called Derech Hashem. We've used this pasuk all the time. Remember why were we chosen? Okay, Ki Dativ. Remember, Avram was going to become a great nation. Why? Why is God going to make a nation? Because I came to know him, so that he's going to command his children and they their children. Vashamru et derech Hashem lasot tzedakah mishpat, to follow the ways of God, doing justice and righteousness. All through Chumash, derech Hashem lalecha bidrachav, lalachta bidrachav. Derech Hashem lalecha bidrach Hashem is always tzedakah mishpat. Okay, now let's go back to our psukim, and we'll see each stage about the bad behavior. Lechreid, God's angry with the behavior. It's not an intellectual problem. It's not they're not understanding the existence of one God and monotheism. Their behavior is bad. And don't tell me there aren't other. There's so many parallels to Chet Ego in the story. Remember 40 days and 40 nights in the second Brit, and God promising Batzechem b'nei Hashem, and God saying, "Let me destroy everyone and make you the only one." We'll get to those parallels later. But there's parallels to the flood story for sure, and this is highlighting them. Okay. Remember what's Derech Hashem? Mishpat v'tzedakah. And on top of that, they did an Ego Masecha. What I want to claim is, it's stage by stage. It's not, this is all referring to Chet Ego. Number one, behavior. She'et Tamcha. They're not doing Derech Hashem, right? And on top of that, they make an Ego Masecha. And what do? Instead of praying at the kotel, it's praying to the kotel. Understand the difference? Vayishtachavu lo. Vayizbechu lo. They take that symbol of God and they're praying to the symbol, because the symbol is what's important to them, because it's a symbol of power. Okay? And to say, this is your power, this is the might of Israel who took us out of Egypt. Now, I wish I couldn't bring examples from nowadays where people were fervently religious, right? And but their symbol, like it can be a flag, it can be, but they're fervent against being, God fighting wars for them. Now, it's important for God to help us in war. But that becomes your entire connection to God, and you're praying for military victory. And everything's judged, and will God help us in war or not? If that's your if your main relation with God is about God winning victories for you and power, as opposed to wanting to be a nation representing God, that's when things get out of hand. Now, um, so therefore, what do you call it? So that's what God sees. That's why God's so angry, because He sees all this education and this didn't work, and they're back to the old ways. Now, in light of that, what does God tell Moshe? Listen what God tells Moshe. Ra'iti et ha'amazeh. Now, see who sing again? Reaching conclusion. The people reach conclusion. Moshe not coming back. Aaron sees. Um, now God reaches the conclusion. What's He say? They're ankshe oraf, which means they don't change their ways. Someone stiff-necked can't change their ways. I tried to train them, and they can't change their direction. I can't notice. They're not trainable. They're not teachable. A lost cause. I tried really hard, I tried really hard with the campers. It's not working. Forget it. Now, Vatan dichali, God says, now allow me. Let me kindle my anger against them, midat hadin, and I'll make a nation out of people like you. I'll make you a great nation. Let me punish everyone who sinned. Went in the wrong way, and then of course Moshe is going to daven, and we'll get to his prayer another time. Now, I want to show you this. We're going to run out of time in a minute. I want to show you what happens when Moshe comes down. Now, there's a big argument among the Parshanim. I'll follow Ibn Ezra now. Moshe doesn't daven here by Moshe. First, this happens first. Moshe's prayer is inserted here, so the reader doesn't get a heart attack. Ibn Ezra doesn't say it that way, but he says we don't want the reader to feel to be in suspense. Oh, by the way, Moshe, it'll have Vayinachem Hashem, Vayinachem, like Banoch again. God's gonna want to get angry and then holds back his anger. But but it could be that prayer happened after he deals with the situation. If we have time, we'll see the Ibn Ezra later. It's also built on the story in Parshat Ekev. Now, but let's see what happens when Moshe comes down. Vayifan bin Moshe bin Ahar with the two luchot in his hand. Okay, luchot written. That's where he went up with the luchot. He came down with him. Now, Vayishma Yoshua et kol ha'am b're'o. Watch the wordplay here. Re'o means that's anamanapia. Re'o like laharia, like trua. Like hooray. Moshe hears the people with loud noise up and down, and it sounds like there's a war going on because Yoshua is a general. It's so loud it sounds like a war. Now there's a really bad word hiding here. Remember the word ra? And we'll see in a minute. We'll see paro. There's wordplay because re'o and pshat here is like a trua, a sound going up. What's that? Heard the noise of the people and they're shouting. But Ra is also the Egyptian god, and Ra is also bad. Got it? All placed together. Now, what's Moshe tell him? That's not noise of war. That's not noise of winners and losers. That's not all Gvuran. It's not the sound of war, the ups and downs. Rather, it's simply loud noise. It's just loud noise. Just like a wild party. Like wow. Like everyone's been to a wild party or watched them on TV. You know, that's people in their wild behavior. They make a lot of noise. Okay. Now, when Moshe comes down to the camp, what does he see? He sees the egel and the mecholot. We call that mixed dancing. But mecholot we had that. Remember machla tirtzam. I ever told you all the notes of Chad. I call it they're all about movement. We talked about that ever. Tirtzah is larutz, and milka lalechet. Noah lanua to move. Machla is and choga is lachug. It's the circle, like bambagan chuga. No, all the names are all about movement, walking, running, dancing, circling, etc. It's just cute. I'm not sure why, but I just call it the first movement, first female movement. That was a bad pun. Now back to sorry, getting off track. So he sees dancing. He's not happy. Moshe's angry. He sees their behavior that's bad, and he throws down he breaks the luchot, and again sort of breaks the covenant. He takes the egel and grinds it up, etc. And now listen to what he tells Aaron. He's not accusing Aaron of sinning. Right? What did you do? You caused him to sin. He's not saying you sinned, but you're the babysitter. You did something, and you might have had good intentions, but it led to a terrible sin. Is what was it that caused it? Now, what should Aaron say? Don't blame me, Moshe. Blame yourself. You came. It's your fault. You didn't come back. I had to do something. I couldn't do nothing. Number one, you know these people. What are they? They're bad. We've been leading them together, right? You know the campers. What do you expect was going to happen? What do you think? You're gone and leave us alone for what do you expect is going to happen when you don't give us something to do? And we're just waiting and waiting and waiting. Something's bound to go bad. So first, Aaron's telling him, "What are you surprised of? That's their behavior. You know they're bad." Okay. Now, who's to blame? They told me make some power. Remember to lead us, because you didn't come back. No, it's he's saying it's your fault. It's because you didn't come back. Okay. So I told them, "Give me gold, etc." And they took out the gold, and that's what happened. This is a short version. I know the midrash that it was like came out magical, but I think he's just summarizing it briefly what happened. Okay. Now here's the key. Bayar Moshe ta'am ki parohu. Paro means wild. Got it? In other words, Moshe understands how so now Moshe sees. Remember, God saw that they were Moshe says the people are wild. Okay. Who got them wild? Ki pro Aaron. Aaron caused them to get wild. And see the wordplay with paro? Okay. To their disgrace in the eyes of their enemies. Again, that's what most the Kamehem, or maybe might relate to Vaikum Tzachek, but most Parashim say, but with their enemies, those who come against them, now we have nothing to protect us because God's not with us, because we're wild and God's not with us anymore. Okay, so it's no different of ra and evil or sound, like Ra or the Egyptian God we talked about. Moshe didn't claim that Aaron sinned, but the people sinned. And it says parallel symbol. No, what I'm getting at, Aaron meant well, but the sad conclusion is this simply shows God and shows Moshe that the people aren't ready yet. There's no point in conquering the land of Israel if you're not ready. And Chet Egel is one last test, one last experience to see if the people are ready to conquer the land. And from their behavior, what does God see? They're not ready. And therefore God says, let's get rid of the riffraff and keep only the perfect people, like Moshe. And Moshe is going to daven and say, now this is going to lead to a whole new covenant, remember? That's a whole different topic about the second Luchot. If I follow Midat Hadin, of what do you call it? Of Kiloi Salapi Shechem, and God's Elkanah, Pukei Avon Sonai, there's no way an Am She'orov can survive. And Moshe basically is going to argue, number one, he's going to say, if you kill them, it'll be Chilo Hashem, so you can't kill them. So God agrees, you're right, it'll be Chilo Hashem, I can't kill them, but I can't let them work for anymore, but they're fired. The contract's broken. Moshe has to negotiate a new contract that will enable a Am She'oref to remain in the service of God. In other words, we have to get re-employed, but we need a new contract where God's willing to be forgiving. That's a topic of Chet Ego and Midat Hadin. That's a whole topic in itself, again, parallel to the flood. But that's for a different share. We'll see that later in the Korbanot, maybe. Now, I was going to finish the share. We saw that at the end of the day, we're going to have a kosher ego. But I need to make a symbol of God that's not focusing on military power, sure, but rather the symbol of God that makes us worthy of God's help in military. You understand the difference? In other words, I need a symbol of God, and the symbol of God reminds me how we need to behave to be worthy of God's help. So if what's going to lead us in battle is the Aron HaBrit, and in the Brit are the Luchot HaBrit, to be a Menachem Kadosh. So then what enables God to help us? If he sees that when we win the war, we're going to set up a nation that'll serve him properly. We're going to fight in the proper manner. We're going to listen to his commandments. If God sees that dedication, so I need a symbol to remember what we're fighting for and what's our goal as a nation. If the symbol is only about power, military power, and that's our whole relationship with God, that's never going to work. Therefore, I need an educational symbol, and I'm going to spend 6 months building it, and it's still not going to work so well. But that we'll have to deal with later on. So what I'm trying to show you is you can't miss the parallels between Har Sinai and Chet Egel, and how he behaved at Har Sinai and Chet Egel, and now the Mishkan, all the things, the fact that the Mishkan, we're going to again collect our gold. We're going to have a collection of gold. We're going to melt down the gold and make a symbol of God that's going to lead us to the land of Israel. That can't be just a coincidence. Now, so so we're going to see the way the commandment's given, and we'll see in a minute the need for a rehab project was what I need to do now. I need to make a symbol of God that'll highlight the educational component. But before I can go to Israel, God's original plan was let's go right to Israel, conquer the land, and we can build a permanent temple, a mikdash, Hamakom Asher Yivchar Hashem, and everything will be by midat hadin, and hopefully the people will be on that level. Now that we're not on the level to be able to survive as midat hadin, now God, we need a new contract midat rachamim. I need a whole educational project to build a nation, to make them again committed to God, to show God we're worthy of a Shekhinah. Therefore, God's Shekhinah goes away with Chet HaEgel, and we need to build a Mishkan for God's Shekhinah to return. But we have to do the story of the Midat Rachamim to appreciate that. So I'm going to show you why it makes so much sense that the actual commandment of the portable Mishkan, the portable temple, with all collecting the gold and how we collect the gold, and making such a big deal about the symbol of God being the luchot, etc., with the specific symbol of God, and how it's built, etc., that's all affected with an A because of Chet HaEgel. But the very need for a mikdash has nothing to do with Chet HaEgel. That's where we're going to solve the problem. In other words, the core concept of a temple, of a mikdash, where we go and serve God, we saw in the Rambam 3 times a year, and that's our reminder of Har Sinai. I need a national hub to remember why we're chosen. I need a national gathering place. I need a constant center remembering why we're chosen, where the nation gathers for the other regel, and where the Sanhedrin's going to be, and where the Kohanim and Levim are going to be centered, and spreading the Torah from there. That we need no matter what. The need to build a portable one in the desert as a rehab project to enable the Shekhinah to return, and to give the people a job to do, to give them to prove to God they're worthy of the Shekhinah, that'll be based on because of Chet HaEgel. And therefore, Ramban's thematic approach, that the Mishkan, or the Mikdash, the concept of Mikdash, is a concept reminder of Har Sinai, that's undisputable. But the specific Mishkan that we build in the desert is clearly affected by what happened in Chet HaEgel. And that's how we're going to solve the problem of Rosh Rashi, how they're both going to be right. Okay, I'll stop here, and we'll take questions. Next week, we have to finish up God's Midat Rachamim to show how how they affect the Mishkan itself, and how it affects the kaparot, what have to say, but which kelim in the Mikdash and which avodot in the Mikdash are because of Chet HaEgel. Because what would the Mikdash have looked like had not been for Chet HaEgel? Would I have Yom Kippur? Would I need kapara? Would I need the Mizbach Toret? Would I need? I'm not saying yes or no. I'm saying we have to consider all those things. But it's interesting. We have Old and Shlamim. We don't have Chatat and Asham yet. So the Chatat, we do have a Chatat in the 7 days of Miluim. Is that because of Chet HaEgel, or that's even regardless of Chet HaEgel? That would be the big machloket between Rashi and Ramban. Was why do we need the 7 days of Miluim, and why the korbanot of Hachshara? They'll get complicated, but we'll deal with that next week. I didn't see any questions so far, but let me see if there's a question. Chat. Oh, 1 second. Why the 2 clauses which are repeated? 23, 22. 1 second. And there's a couple questions. Okay, let's go one at a time. Okay, question number 1. 23, 22. Wait, Vayafti Tovecha V'tzarti Tzorecha. It's Rabbi, is that what you're asking? Why the 2 types of defeating your enemies? Vayafti Tovecha V'tzarti. I think it's a poetic way of emphasizing how much God's going to help you. You have your enemies, your adversaries. It's just highlighting that God will help you on the condition you keep His laws. I think that's the 2 clauses you're referring to. If not, let me know. Okay, the Aaron is called God's footstool. That's right. Raglei Hashem, very good. Okay, did Aaron believe Moshe was not coming back? Listen, I don't see Aaron saying, wait, he's coming back. Maybe he did. No, and Aaron tells Moshe Rabbeinu, we're waiting for you, didn't come back. Moshe didn't tell Aaron when he's coming back. He said, wait until we come back. He's assuming he's coming back, but he can't wait forever either. And maybe he did tell the people, wait, but he can't wait forever. So is he stalling? It could be stalling. That's why he said maybe ask for gold and maybe that'll stall. But again, all those things are in Parshanim, but I don't think Aaron knows. Why would he know? If he did, he should tell the people, wait another day. No. Is it machala or machla? Oh, No, but that's from Machol. No one would name their daughter a sickness. That might be her nickname later on when you're not happy the way she dresses, but that's something else. No, the but I think but machala, that you have that from Machlon v'Chilyon. That's a big machloka whether those names are sort of giveaways. But here this is
I was saying because you translated machla, I think earlier as dancing.
no machol. No,
Machol.
it's this chogla is dancing. The chug. Bamaga nachuga. Okay. Machlas lolechet, to walk.
I thought there was a translation of something like
Oh,
that.
milka. No, I'm sorry. No, milka. You're right. Wait a second. Machol. My mistake. Machol. You're right. Machol is dance. Right? Machol.
Okay.
Memchet lamed.
Yeah, it was just very similar
But that's machla. Yeah.
roots.
Yeah. How it's related to
So maybe, instead of dancing, it could also be, something very
yeah.
negative.
I'm not sure
disease,
how the source of like the machala from a sickness from cholera, and this source is from machol. Those is the mem. I'm not sure whether the mem's in the source or not. So here's Melosha Machol, and Milka is Lalechet. I don't know. It's just interesting that the names are all. I heard that from Yoni Grossman, that all the names are about movement. He also said it is something cute. He didn't give a share on it. He just mentioned in passing. He has all these great insights. It's awesome. Okay, so everyone have a good week, and next week is regular class. Yeah, regular class in Tisha B'Av. I'm assuming Jay will have a special program in Tisha B'Av, but I'm assuming it won't be regular share.
Thank you very much, Rabbi.
Okay, thank you, Rabbi. Shabbat Tov.